Hello and welcome to Shared Screens Media Club. This is the one I promised, the follow-up podcast where we are going to talk everything gaming in 2023, the good and the bad, let me tell you. Joining me today as part of Shared Screens, we've got Jordan, we've got Alec, and we've got Chris. How are we doing, fellas?
Fantastic.
Doing good for Monday.
I'm getting over a cold.
I can hear it in your voice too. And It's like good for a Monday, and then fuck.
I'm still a little under the weather, you know.
Well, I appreciate you being here. Appreciate you showing up. I want it on the record. Chris is here. He showed up. All right, for content. He did it for you.
I don't have to say
it.
I don't have to say anything else. I can just sit here. I was here.
He showed up.
Yeah,
he gets participation. That word.
Participation.
Points. Yep. He's
Shared
just like
squeeze.
shared screens. Yeah. For whatever reason, when I
paid
have
in
those
exposure,
words, it just happens. So.
Yeah, squeeze.
So this is the one I promised. This is where we're going to talk all things 2023 in gaming, and mostly, not mostly, but a big part of it will be the games we didn't talk about on our Game of the Year podcast. So I did want to reiterate, for our Game of the Year podcast, we had 20 different games submitted. That's a lot of games. On the Game of the Year podcast, we talked about, I was going to say 5, but technically we talked about 6. Spoiler, if you didn't watch it yet. You should go and give it a look. It's a pretty good video. One I'm actually really proud of.
Somebody just pops in with a steel chair.
Yeah. When? You'll never know. Gotta watch it. 12 of those submitted games were only submitted once. So odds are that those 12 games are a big chunk of what we're going to talk about today. And I wanted to kick that off with my personal game of the year, which was Hi-Fi Rush. Did any of y'all play / enjoy Hi-Fi Rush this year?
I played / enjoyed it.
Yeah. I think I'm the only one who's like, I put like the first couple hours in and like I liked it, but it didn't click with me the way it did everyone else, and I never found the time to go back. But I know everyone else has said good things, and I think maybe I'll go back to it someday, check it out. But this is you guys.
Yeah, for the record, most of the people that I hear that say, "Oh, I like Hi-Fi Rush," it took them a little bit to like kind of feel the, and I mean that literally, kind of like feel the groove of this of Hi-Fi Rush. So if you only played like under 4 hours, I would say. This is going off rough memory. I think you need to put a little bit more time in, and then it will start to click.
Get to that like third level or so.
Yeah, it really just starts to shine. But
the back half of that game is genuinely insane. Like it's very very good.
Both gameplay and story wise, I was like, oh wow, I'm actually digging this story. It's really crazy. But I want to kick off. The kickoff is like the stealth launch of Hi-Fi Rush for the year, right? Like that was like one of the bigger, not only the bigger titles, but it was like one of the bigger moves that 2023 made. Was Xbox was like, here's a game you had no idea even existed, and it's by Tango Gameworks, who makes Evil Within, which is just like
it was such a cool 1-2 punch of. It was not something that was like brought up prior to that developer direct. So like we were like, oh wow, there's a surprise like 5th game that they're showing off today, and we're like, wow, that's really cool. What a nice surprise. And then at the end of their presentation, they're like, hey, it's out right now, and we were like, what?
And
like,
holy
shit! Like,
and initially, I was like, oh, that's really cool. I'll download it. I'll give it a try. You know, I wasn't like super like hyped to go play this game, and then I started playing it, and I'm like, and initially, kind of like Jordan, I was like, okay. I see what this is. It's really creative. It's really colorful. I dig it, but it might not be for me. And then I pushed through, and I fucking loved Hi-Fi Rush. Hi-Fi Rush is such a quality video game that simply just got overshadowed because of such a great year, like release-wise, 2023 was.
It came in at the right time.
It did. I agree. I totally agree.
Right near the beginning of the year when a lot of stuff wasn't firing yet. Like that was
at the wrong time for me. Because I was reviewing Forspoken when it came out, and I remember I made the meme of it was the Squidward meme when he's looking out at SpongeBob and Patrick, and I put Forspoken, and then the other two were the Dead Space remake and Hi-Fi Rush, because I didn't get till Hi-Fi Rush until like early February.
Shout out to Dead Space remake. Josh had that on his top 5. It was his number 5 for the year.
Did anyone have Forspoken on their top 5?
No, they didn't.
I had it on a different top 5 list.
Again, Forspoken, not a bad game, just very disappointing.
From what people send me, from what I remember, people are like, the systems here are good. It's just it's like underutilized. Anyway, back to the main course, Hi-Fi Rush. The word I use to describe Hi-Fi Rush is that this game is fucking fun. Like every part of this game is just fun. It genuinely slaps. All the music is really cool. And I don't think that they stay in like a similar genre, but I think they change it up enough to keep it like fresh every time you come in with like a new song. It's the epitome of a passion project that just absolutely like excels at that. Because like this is such a weird mixture of like rhythm combat. And is there any other game with this sort of rhythm combat, or is this like
not in the way where like
the same game?
Well, I was going to say not in the way that being off rhythm will punish you.
Sure.
That Hi-Fi Rush kind of skirts around, because like being on rhythm in Hi-Fi Rush is obviously the goal, and you get better at that. But if you are somebody that doesn't have rhythm, which those people are out there, you can still sit down and play Hi-Fi Rush. Like the game does that for you. It's not going to destroy your experience like Cadence of Hyrule or Dance of the Attack of the Necro Dancer or something like that.
Sure. I also think
Metal
like,
Hellsinger.
Sure.
Oh yeah, Hellsinger too. Yeah, Hellsinger was very good.
It also like the environments around it are moving with you and like trying to help you. Like they do a lot of things to help you stay on beat, even then they don't punish you if you just like happen to be off beat for a majority of the game. I will say like in the late game you have to be relatively on beat or you're probably not gonna get past. But
that's true.
There's one boss battle that was rough.
But I really like the boss battles if I'm being honest.
Yeah,
like,
boss battles are great.
You're totally right. Like it can get rough even if you're on beat. So I think it's just something to kind of push there.
It's such a cool mixture of like this rhythm game with character action. Like if you were to make Devil May Cry like have to be played to the beat,
y'all keep bringing this game up for me, and I'm like, maybe I gotta play DMC because
dude, it's the character action game. I genuinely don't know how you haven't played it yet.
Again, just briefly, I played the reboot or whatever, and I was like, this game sucks.
How dare you? DMC was so sick.
The reboot was not great. All right,
I loved it. I genuinely, unironically loved it.
Fair enough. I was wrong. I'm wrong. I love Hi-Fi Rush for a similar reason.
It's like no, you're totally allowed to dislike DMC. I get why people did. So one of the things that also fascinates me about Hi-Fi Rush though, and I think it's something that we're going to see happen more often, is this sort of reliance more on these AA productions. And I think we're already seeing something really similar with the Prince of Persia game that just came out,
which is really good. By the way,
so fucking good. Holy shit,
I love it. And I don't like Metroidvanias, but this game's really good.
I want to play it so bad.
Do you still have a UB Plus, Al?
No, not yet.
I was about to say, it turns out I kept mine after Avatar, and so I was like, oh fuck, and then I went, I can play Prince of Persia.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's how they get you.
I'm playing Pop, and it's really really good. But
the amount of time it took me to figure out what Pop was, I didn't know it initially.
And obviously, like because this is a 2023 game of the year, or like gaming discussion, we'll get to layoffs and those sorts of things. But I do think it is fascinating to look at what was the name of the company that made Hi-Fi?
Tango.
Tango. Yeah, it's you look at Tango and you look at like Ubisoft with Prince of Persia, and like the costs of developing huge AAA games are only going up. And they're starting to return less because they also take so much time that by the time it comes out, like there's a lot of stuff going on in games that people are kind of over or done with. Like you look at Ubisoft with their open world games and that sort of thing, and the return on investment is starting to get smaller and smaller. But if you're able to take a smaller team with a more limited budget that's able to put more passion into something and then release it whenever, and then have tons of people play it and purchase it, like Prince of Persia and Hi-Fi Rush, like I think we're going to see more of that moving forward.
Or even 2020, or even 2022 with Pentiment and Obsidian.
Yeah. I still need to play Pentiment. I didn't.
It's basically the only thing that Sega is about to do. All of those like retro like reboot games of them doing Golden Axe and Crazy Taxi Jet Run, like that's all going to be within that sort of like AA range. Yeah,
I'm still not convinced.
But doesn't Sega still have their quadruple A game that they're making?
The Super Game.
Yeah, that is the Super Game. I'm telling you right now. But just to kind of sort of bring it kind of full circle, like Hi-Fi Rush feels like story-wise and animation-wise and the character moments, like it feels like an entry-level anime with really good VO. I can't think of like a moment where the VO was bad. But it also like the story focuses around, which again is a theme we will return to, kind of corporate greed in a way, and like corporate bullshit. And I just think it's really ironic that that's where we are. Now,
And
if I want to speak, oh, go ahead.
I'll say, an Xbox, honestly, they got with Chai and 808, they got new mascots now that they can use.
See, I stand by that. I just haven't seen them utilize anything, but maybe they're waiting until
I think
the
that's what
they have
everybody's
to
saying though.
release.
It's like you have them. Everybody loves these characters. Use them.
Like
Sure.
get them.
I
Yeah,
agree.
do it while you still have these and they're still relevant in that way. Yeah.
Like actually utilize them. I agree, Alec. I agree.
Yeah.
If I'm speaking strictly like critically about Hi-Fi Rush, the only thing I can think of that I didn't enjoy was the platforming, and
Yeah,
it wasn't
I
even
remember that got me
because
in some spots.
it was difficult. It was just like it felt off at certain points, and it wasn't necessarily fun. It felt like a means to an end, not exactly like exploring wasn't exactly the whole point of said game. But
the combat was fluid, but the movement felt a little stiff for platforming.
I think the combat and like the rhythm stuff makes platforming a little more difficult than it needs to be. So like they have this formula that is so cool, but they have to master out the platforming, because I do think there's something to be had there, but like they didn't have it completely worked out yet. But yeah, Hi-Fi Rush, my game of the year. So it got 5 points from me. Still didn't make it to the top 5. Son of a bitch. But that's all right. So
I think it was number 8 on my top 10 list. So
sure, that makes sense. That checks out. And Jordan, it was his number 27 because he played
number
3 hours.
1 in games that I have played in January of 2023.
Great, love that. It's like the
Number
NFL
2,
where they're like
Forspoken.
the NFL makes up like the first player under 30 to score 3 touchdowns in the first half of the February.
yeah,
It's like,
there's
shut
so
the
many
fuck up.
balls.
It's like, what do you mean?
It's like the oddly
it's like-
specific world records where they're like, longest person to do a handstand while juggling a carton of milk. And it's like, okay, but only
Name
2 people are
Steve.
competing for that.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yep.
But to pivot to one more title that we want to talk about before we get into the hardships of 2023, Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty. What a redemption story, right?
Yeah.
Weird.
Absolutely, like one of the biggest 180s in gaming, I think, in a while, which is really, really cool and like deserved. Like a lot of people were really shitting on CD Projekt Red, and obviously, like Cyberpunk's initial launch was extremely mishandled and misadvertised, but I also had a lot of faith. Just like I'm not even a huge like fan of like the Witcher series or anything, but like the Witcher 3 was so revered as just being like one of the best values in gaming for such a long time, and being so consumer friendly, that I was like, I bet you CDPR is gonna find a way to turn this around. It's unfortunate it came out in the position it did. When talking about Phantom Liberty, it's hard to not also bring up like the 2.0 update along with it as well, because they came out so close to each other, and in that it was free, and they basically made an entirely it feels like a brand new game, having played it at launch, and then now like the progression is totally different. The enemy AI is better. They've added more and more content to it, more things to do around it before you get to the DLC, and then you play Phantom Liberty, and it's this absolutely kick-ass like Mission Impossible style like spy story, right?
Sure.
You get a brand new environment in Night City that, while I don't think it's as interesting as being in Night City proper, I think it's much more fun to navigate, because it feels less like a real city and more like a video game environment, if that makes sense. And so it makes it really dense, and it's a little easier to get around, and I really, really like that. Just excellent performances, and just incredible set pieces, just like using everything that they have learned and improved upon, and then being like, all right, here's the best of everything that we have, and offering that into one package is just it's really, really good. Like if you were a person that was on the fence about Cyberpunk prior to this, like now is the time to play that and play Phantom Liberty. It was number 5 on my top 5 list for the year. That's how good the DLC is.
What are we talking
really,
for length?
really excellent.
How long is the DLC?
That's actually a really good question.
I was looking that up. Like I started replaying Cyberpunk so I can get to Phantom Liberty, because I tried booting it up when the 2.0 release came, because I was in the middle of Starfield at the time, And
Don't even get me started.
oh yeah, well I'm gonna get to that at some point. But what my thought, or I like the whole change, but at the same time, because I booted up from my existing character that I had gone through the game with, it was hard to, because they basically have you respec everything. And so with so many new skills and stuff like that, I didn't know, couldn't remember, because I hadn't played since launch, since I beat it at launch. So it'd been, 2-3 years at this point.
Sure.
Is
Since I
Phantom
had played.
Liberty a post game
No,
type like story
in the
takes
mission?
middle.
place mid game.
Oh, okay.
So that's why when everyone's asked like, should I roll a new character? It's like, yes, Phantom Liberty happens during Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Like,
so
that's what I did with Pokemon
It's
DLC.
now it's on the back
me.
half. You play a pretty solid chunk of the story.
I'll say I'm over 10 hours in to the story of Cyberpunk, and I still haven't gotten to the Phantom Liberty.
It's in the last, I'd say, like, it's in the back half of the game, like the last like 3/4 of it or so.
All right.
And it is that way because
like,
they added a new ending with the Phantom Liberty as well, and so like stuff that happens within Phantom Liberty will affect like the end of the game.
Okay. So is it like story missions that like now provide more to the end, or is it something that happens separate from the main story, but like you're supposed to play it?
It's interweaved. Like,
okay.
So like you have to, like, because you'll see, like, at least for me, I can see the Phantom Liberty like storyline mission, but it's telling me, oh, you have to find out more about this thing to kind of unlock that. So
gotcha.
Yeah, you'll finish Phantom Liberty, and then you'll start going into like the
rest
final
of the game.
The final plots of Cyberpunk again. Yeah.
It's on my short list to play, but
yeah,
we'll see.
It's very good. Phantom Liberty, the reason I had to look up the length is like I fucked around and did a lot of side stuff while I was playing it.
That checks out.
But the main story is about 10 to 15 hours.
Nice.
That's a meaty DLC right there.
It's solid.
Yeah. But what I was getting to was like I've been really enjoying my time with Cyberpunk 2.0, or I guess 2.1 at this point, because that came out at the end of the year. And something that's kind of really stuck with me, I think, Chris, you mentioned it at one point, but it's like you can see after playing Starfield, so much of Starfield, this just scratches that itch of what I wanted out of Starfield.
Yeah.
Because it's the thing that really got me, and I think that multiple people have said, it's like the conversations and dialogue in Cyberpunk, they're so fluid. Like you can still look around, you can interact with things. I mean, aside, on top of being well written, but like you're not just stuck to person right up to the camera,
Bethesda style. Yeah.
That was the thing that struck, because I played Cyberpunk right after playing Starfield.
So did a lot of people, and they're like, "This is what I wanted."
Played Baldur's Gate right before playing Starfield,
and I mean, it worked out too that like the 2.0 release hit like right like a week or two after Starfield came out.
Yep.
And like, yeah,
which is ballsy for the record,
because all of the like performance issues, I like kept a lot of people away and stuff. I went in there and I was like, man, this is much more like well animated than I remember it being, and like, wow, it's really pretty, and wow, it runs really well. Like, it's a visually incredible game.
Yeah.
And so yeah, there's a point early on where one of the first like opening missions, you go to meet your friend Jamie, like out at the bottom of your apartment. So you walk down, and he's sitting there at this ramen stand, like eating noodles, and he turns to you and he's like eating noodles while talking to you, and like very animated, doing all these things. And I was like, this is a really fucking pretty game, dude. And like I don't know whether it'll get its flowers for that at this point, but like, yeah, it's just it managed to kind of do all of the little things that I was sort of expecting from Starfield but didn't get.
Sure.
It feels like a more next gen version of that genre than Starfield, which felt like a game that I've played before.
Yeah, Starfield is very much a Bethesda game, and not even a Bethesda game that I liked. So, the DLC, and it's a triumph to say, but the DLC is a must play in a crowded year. I just didn't get around to it because of said crowded years. But,
yep, same.
But yeah, so I do intend to play it. We'll see if that actually happens, but it's on my short list. It's high on my short list.
There were two
so hopefully we get there.
DLC releases that are in my top 5 list of the year. Like, that's kind of crazy.
Before we transition to that, I think it's a good time to talk about the fucked up part of 2023. What do y'all think?
I was going to ask like two questions about like off of Cyberpunk, kind of related to 2077 before we get to the sad stuff. for the people who've played
then
it.
we'll get to
One
the fucked
is,
up part.
do you think that like the Cyberpunk redemption story will be like, do you think that's gonna ever like overtake the No Man's Sky redemption story, or do you think that one like
No.
still takes it just because of like what was promised versus it's been years and they're still delivering on stuff?
I think No Man's Sky is still going, right? Like they're
Yep.
still
That's
making
fair.
stuff for that.
Yeah.
Whereas like Cyberpunk
I
2077 is done. Like the Cyberpunk as a property isn't, but CDPR has already said it's like we're moving on
This
to the
singular
next to the
game,
next
yeah.
Cyberpunk game. Yeah.
Sure. I
But
do think
also-
it's in the ballpark of like that kind of triumph though. Like
Yeah.
I don't
Oh,
think
yeah.
I
it's
definitely
like,
agree.
very
It's like
similar.
if it's not overtaking, it's like it's number
I agree.
2 and it's close.
I agree.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
even think it's that close if I'm being honest, because I think it almost fits into the theme we're going to get into soon, which is the corporate bullshit. So anyway,
Like
Alec, go
overpromising.
ahead.
I was just gonna say at the same time, like, I had a thought. It's gone now.
I know. I like you talking.
It was
You're
there.
talking. You're like, he'll come back. He'll come back. Nope, it's gone.
Yeah.
Jordan, did you have
Never mind.
one more thing?
I did have just one more thing. It's like just fun discussion and stuff, of course. But like, do you think like in 3 years we might be like, oh my god, something that we didn't get to talk about in 2027 was like Starfield 2.0, or do you think that's just like it's different where Starfield launched at like an acceptable level, like there were people who had bugs and flares, but it wasn't brokenly bad the way like, people were not taking it off of a store and it was under promised, and that like a lot of the complaints we have with Starfield just are really that Bethesda wants to do what Bethesda's always done. Like, I kind of want to hear everyone's.
As someone who is a Bethesda fanboy, and I think I can logically say that that's never going to happen. Not to the degree that you are. I don't want to say
Because of mods.
implying, but Bethesda, like has been said time and time again, Bethesda makes Bethesda games, and
Yeah.
will they listen to their community? Sure, they'll make improvements. They'll do the whole bug fixes and add little systems for people that want it, but it will be a Bethesda game through and through. Like I don't think we're gonna get that kind of treatment where like a bunch of the dialogue is changed or a bunch of the load screens go away, and because honestly, if you just made those 2 changes, that game is honestly much better. I'm just saying, just those 2 changes, but those 2 changes will never happen because that's not how Bethesda makes titles.
I think Starfield for me was just kind of like the final nail in the coffin of something that I'd been wondering about for a little while, which was
You just don't like Bethesda games?
Which, man, I just don't think I like Bethesda games.
That's okay.
Anymore,
you can be wrong about Fallout. That's all right.
I've been like listening to what people
never
have to
liked
say
Fallout,
about
to be
like
fair.
about
I like New Vegas.
comparisons, and like I'm somebody who even liked Starfield like quite a lot, but like there's a video on my YouTube watch later I have to get to of somebody being like their design philosophy has been what's it called, old. It's they're stagnant, but like even 10 years ago you could still say that it was like I don't know why the word is slipping my head right now, but it's like old is the only thing.
It's one of those days.
Yeah,
it is. We are recording this on a Monday.
I'm a writer and I have no idea what you're getting at. So
let me see if I could find the exact.
I'm not a
video.
writer and I have no idea what you're getting
Basically,
at.
it's like some people
All right,
are like,
cool.
like their game design is has been antiquated even 10 years ago. Like it still was antiquated, but like other people saying it's like, well, when you look at their roots and them trying to like make this tabletop, the idea of a tabletop game as close to a video game as possible in Bethesda's sense, again, not doing the more one-to-one of a Baldur's Gate, even going back to Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, which is like more of a direct D&D, and like the whole idea of like the character is just their face is like kind of like when a DM plays an NPC, you're not just gonna ignore them and do something else. Like you're focused in on that. And like I just think it's really interesting seeing the different people, seeing different sides of like the design philosophy argument. So I just do want to. I would love to get input from people that are on like different sides of who have played Cyberpunk, haven't played it, liked Starfield, didn't like Starfield, all that, and like if we'll see some sort of change. But I get what you guys are saying.
To close off the Bethesda / Starfield talk, I think it just really boils down to whether or not you like Bethesda games. And normally I do, but this one just didn't hit for me. And I think that's really common for Bethesda. Like I think it's like, oh, I like this, but not this one. Oh, this one's good. I enjoyed the writing of this one, but like the gameplay was. I think that's just a Bethesda thing. So they're still going to sell copies. They'll do well. I think that's just kind of how Bethesda operates. So now to get into the crummy bullshit of 2023. Okay, so the way I surmise 2023, like the negatives of gaming in 2023, is corporate greed / mishandling. And I think it's just because like COVID was a thing, bunch of hiring, bunch of weird kind of stuff there, work from home, all that stuff. They shot for the stars and then hired a bunch of people for those goals. And whether or not they hit those goals, they didn't care. They're just like, it's all about like the bottom dollar there. And it's just something that has never sat right with me. Like, the people that made these incredible games, and there were some doozies of incredible games this year, a lot of them didn't even get to celebrate it. Like, it's just something where it's like, yep, I helped make Cyberpunk 2077, the DLC. What a redemption story. I got laid off last week. Like, that fucking sucks. That's
Like,
not cool.
What the story, like, this almost 10,000 layoffs happened last year.
And now someone's going to say, like, there's been a bunch of layoffs this year, period, because of COVID and stuff like that. But it's just like, yeah, but there didn't have to be.
Oh,
but
like
go ahead.
I don't want to interrupt for too long, but I mean, as of while we're recording, 55 minutes ago, I don't know if you guys were on Twitter before this. Riot Games comes out, makes a statement. Things are changing. You know, players. Minutes ago, we shared with writers that we were refocusing on fewer high impact projects to move us towards a more sustainable future, and then more corporate greed. But like at the end of the day, this means we're eliminating about 530 rules globally, which represents around 11% of rioters, with the biggest impact being to teams outside of core development.
Yeah, it's a lot of the Legends of Runeterra, their digital card game that just didn't really perform super well. And then they had another like smaller team that did try a lot of because there've been a bunch of those like League of Legends like offshoots games, and some of those like haven't done super well, and so I think they're just kind of they're trimming the fat. It's unfortunate, but I mean it is how it goes sometimes. I look at this, so I've pulled up an article from The Verge, just so I could try and get a like eye in the sky, like helicopter view of all of these things, and so
who wrote that article, if I may ask, just to shout them out?
Ash Parrish.
Okay, sorry, I know that seemed weird.
No, it's fine. At the Verge, previously at Kotaku, Parrish makes good stuff. Very good writer. And so just scrolling, just skimming this whole thing, right? Like last September, Epic Games lost let go of 830 people.
Yeah. Epic Games, for the record. Epic Games.
The company that owns the money printing machine.
Literally one of the most successful video games of all time.
Most successful things, period.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that's something I remember hearing about, is that some of these companies are making record-breaking profits. But they're just laying off all these workers because they just care about the bottom dollar and trying to make those profits even more.
I'm baffled by what the goal was. Like, I don't triple that. How? I don't understand.
And what doesn't make sense is looking at like the year that Epic/Fortnite had, and Fortnite is now no longer one game; it is now 3 games. That happened
4,
and so you would I guess 4 games, because they added 3 game modes, right?
And then there's like the Gary's Mod thing of it, where you just find a bunch of other like user created stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
So there's
like
all
6.
that. Wouldn't you think that when you add these game modes that operate almost as if they're new games because of their functionality is not anything similar, that your team would get bigger? Like, I mean, I'm not a businessman,
well, it's
the math ain't mathin'.
Most of those new games though were not made by Epic proper. They were made by studios that are owned by Epic or partnered with. So like Rocket League was made by Psyonix. Like the Rocket Racing was made by Psyonix, who makes Rocket League. The Rock Band thing was made by Harmonix. Like, I mean, it's
But I do think that didn't the layoffs extend to those companies as well? Am I wrong?
Yeah, like when I hear Epic, like as a parent company, has layoffs.
Yeah, I think that includes those companies.
I mean, this article doesn't say. I do think it was primarily Epic, but it is crazy that, I mean,
we're like Embracer Group.
Embracer was the next one I was going to pull up too. Over 900 people let go. You also
Embracer Group is literally the example of a company getting too big and causing all these issues.
Well, it's an example of mishandling, in my opinion.
They were snatching up studios left and right, and then they shuttered all of them last year.
Well, that's because
they were banking on that $2 billion deal.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, Alec, I didn't mean to do that to you, but like that is the epitome, like the prime example of how like that deal wasn't even done yet, and you were hiring for said deal.
The only
doesn't make any fucking sense to me.
I need more information about that deal to come out and how it fell through, because like
Give it time.
It
will.
Part of me that
Jason
like,
Schreier's working his stuff.
I'm sure, and like I'm not trying to like play the defender of any corporations here, but like, I do wonder if it's like, oh, like the talks of a deal possibly happened, and then we started, reaching too close, and it got canceled last minute, or was it like the concept happened, it looked like it was gonna move through, and like as I was getting ready, like right before like the final, because there's always like the final paperwork, right? Like the closing on a house or a business. Like there's always like, and things like, my father owns businesses. He works in real estate and stuff. Like things do fall through at the last minute, like sometimes. So I do wonder if it's like, was it an embracer being truly irresponsible, or was it like 9 out of 10 CEOs would have been like, no, this is more than likely going to pass. Let's start, getting stuff
Bit
ready.
of both, I think.
And I'm also not saying that like absolves them of anything, but like I'm personally curious as to like really what, because man, that call is brutal.
Oh yeah, you hear him like it was literally like the next day they came out and had that earnings meeting, and you could just hear how devastated that dude was.
Yeah.
On top of that, so he had Embracer, and then here's some more top level ones. Hasbro laid off 1,000 employees, and this is something that I didn't know, and makes me incredibly angry. Hasbro laid off 1,000 employees, including most of the team that worked on Baldur's Gate 3 with Larian Studios.
Yeah, because Hasbro owns.
They made one of the most
game of the year,
like the big. They made probably the biggest game, of 2023 in a year that was full, and most of them don't work there anymore.
Yeah,
that's infuriating.
Not to turn this into a New Rollers episode, but like things at Wizard of the Coast are bad right now.
Things at Wizard of the Coast are very bad.
Oh yeah,
bad everywhere.
Which is where a lot of that comes from.
Yeah, for audience members that don't know, Hasbro owns Wizard of the Coast. Wizard of the Coast makes D&D.
It is important to note that it is not like people that work at Larian that were let go. It was the Wizards of the Coast team that worked alongside Larian to help like with the D&D side of things. But like that still sucks. Like that's infuriating.
Agreed. Yeah.
On top of that, EA laid off 6% of its workforce, which is around 800 people. And then just to list off like a bunch of the remaining names like BioWare, Microsoft, Bungie, Naughty Dog, Ubisoft, Amazon, CD Projekt Red, Sega, Unity, and Activision Blizzard all had massive layoffs.
Some of the biggest players in the space had
biggest players.
Not like 10 to
BioWare,
20. Like
Microsoft, Bungie, Naughty Dog, Ubisoft, CDPR, Sega, Blizzard. Like these are all like the pillars. Like these are the big dogs of gaming. Like since forever. These are game changers. These are the people that lay the foundation that make so many of the greatest games you'll ever see in your life. And what it comes down to, especially if you look at back in, I want to say it was 2011, when the 3DS wasn't selling well. Satoru Iwata and Nintendo's boards, their leadership all took pay cuts to make sure that they weren't going to lose employees over the loss of the 3DS. And then you turn around and you look at the rest of these.
I literally pulled up an article about it to be like, oh, I want to read a different article to remind people that this happened. But
and then you turn around and look at this, and what this tells me is that this is at its core a failure of leadership. That these are people who have failed to manage to keep the people around that make the games for them, that create the money that's there in the first place, and have mismanaged that alongside the extra development costs and time and all of these things, because they want bigger, they want more money, and they don't care how it gets done. And the people that achieve these things are the ones that are let go, and you're left with the callous, cold-hearted, money-hungry bloodsuckers are still the ones that are standing.
And the thing that's crazier, going back to the Nintendo example, is that was when Nintendo was not doing well.
Yeah,
it was the Wii U era. What more do I need to say? And right, and it was this year. Companies did exceptionally well, wildly well.
Oh yeah, again, let's look at some of these names.
I don't want to say it's a necessity to ever just like ruin the lives of like 500 families. But it's not even like there's a recession, or like we're not making,
Sure.
this company's barely afloat and we have to cut everything we can just to like, it's not one of those situations most of the time.
No, again,
Like I said, failure of
look at some
leadership.
of these. Look at some of these names here. I mean, Blizzard released Diablo this year. Ubisoft released like 80 games. Naughty Dog is hot off the release of Last of Us Part 2. Microsoft had a huge year with games like Hi-Fi Rush and all of these other things.
Starfield.
CDPR just turned around Cyberpunk. We just spent like 20 minutes talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And these are all the people who no longer work there. Like that, it's make it make sense.
It's like you said, it's the failure of leadership, and it brings it back to a point you made earlier, Chris, which I think is very apt. Like the AA games are there's no other option. Like they're gonna have to make these more AA cheaper. I'm not saying that lessens the quality, but they will be cheaper to ship and get out there, and that doesn't mean they're gonna be any less quality. But like there's no other option at this point.
Yeah, it's like I call it like mismanagement because I mean, yeah, you have these insanely like bloated development costs for these gigantic games that take like 7 to 8 years to make, and like
Rocksteady's gonna be next.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Literally, what I want to say is, I wonder how many of these layoffs are people who were hired in mass waves the last 3, 4, maybe even 5 years.
Yes.
In this rush to everybody trying to make the next games as a service, massive multiplayer online, next Fortnite or whatever.
I mean, look at WB Games,
go and
right?
jump ship this year. Yeah, I mean, we kind of have an idea that like PlayStation wanted to run for the hills and is slowing down, or is at least deciding to, if they're gonna do it in a much more calculated way. And I'm not saying that like, oh well, none of these games are going to be successful. It's better that they cut their losses now. But it's like that goes back to when you were originally hiring. If this is going to be a X year amount project, like make sure you can afford that ahead of time.
Well,
make sure it's something you actually want to do, because it goes back to like kind of like an issue that's like, in my opinion, also plaguing like social media sites, where everybody wants to be able to do everything. So every company wants to have their FPS. They want to have the massive battle royale. They want to have the MMO. They want to have the money printing machine, games as a service, or they want to have multiple of those in different genres and different IPs, so that they're getting different audiences. But people only have so much bandwidth to play these giant games.
Well, it becomes unsustainable. Because there's the cost in time development of these huge like AAA or live service, like all of these things, like it's the return on investment is too low. Even if it's successful, like to do that again, you're eventually going to be dropping down, and then people get laid off. Like that's really what's happening. Which is why I like the way that you said it earlier, where you're like, is like, yeah, games are going to be cheaper, and he's like, I don't mean that they'll be bad, but they will be cheaper. And I do think that is kind of the move, is this shift into this AA gaming to where the teams are smaller, because the budget is lower, and because it's lower, we'll get more of them. And then these smaller games like often tend to sell extremely well. I mean, you look at Prince of Persia doing bangers right now. Like I think of games like Hades and their ilk, like these smaller, tighter focused games that don't take 8 years to make. Tend to be really, really successful, and will have a higher ROI than some like Ubisoft attempting to compete with Warzone. Everyone like, what the fuck was the name of Ubisoft's battle royale game?
Hyperscape.
Yeah, thank you.
That's the one that
came
Twitch,
and went.
Like the audience can actually
had the
send
Twitch
stuff
integration and stuff into it. That came and went, and like the budget for that game was insane.
At least Ubisoft, because like people trying to get into that like genre now, I think it doesn't make any fucking sense. I think that it's kind of past. But at least Ubisoft at the time, they was still not fresh, but like I still think there was a shot for another battle royale to kind of like be in that space. At least they got in and got out and was like, nope,
it's less on like riding the wave of like genre popularity, more in just on like the sustainability of projects that big.
Yep, I agree.
I think we've proven time and time again with all projects, whether it be film, television, or video games, if the team wants to work on it, it'll be better just because there's genuine passion and effort put in there. And it's like
Hi-Fi Rush. Just saying.
Hi-Fi
That's
Rush,
it.
even like the Star Wars Jedi games from Respawn, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was
Like,
gonna say in a more mainstream example, like then Hi-Fi Rush was gonna be the
How dare you.
Spider-Man games in the not the art book for the first game that came with the collector's edition. That's just the pictures, but the large one that was sold separately. I've skimmed through it, and that team basically was Marvel Games went, we want to make a PlayStation exclusive game, and Insomniac went, we want to make Spider-Man. If they were forced to make a game if they were forced to make a Spider-Man game, or they were forced to make a game for a hero that's even less popular than that, like it wouldn't have come out as good, not because of. And the budget could have been appropriately sized. The team could have been appropriate. There could have been no crunch. None of that. It's just about passion. And yet again, all the other stuff mixed in.
And that's not to say that people who worked on other games and got laid off didn't have passion for their projects.
No,
It's
no,
just
not at
the
all.
quality will like wane on if they're forced to make the battle royale when they just don't want to do that. And like if you're making a battle royale nowadays, I guarantee you, you're probably not too like
or even live
jived
service,
about it.
or even like live service in general. Like you look at like one of the biggest layoffs of last year was Bungie. With Destiny 2, and like Destiny in particular is kind of infamous amongst like the game dev scene for essentially being as large of a company as Bungie is, like thousands of employees who are all incredibly psyched to be there and working on Destiny. Like the Destiny devs fucking love Destiny, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a million reasons why.
I mean, do you
like
think the
all of
layoffs
these
were in the
things happen.
10-year plan when they announced Bungie in 2014?
I was just saying this. I was just thinking the same thing, Jordan. As to be pessimistic about it, I was thinking the exact same thing.
Like,
you just
listen,
said.
we'll make all this stuff.
We'll launch our final DLC, and then we'll lay off 50% of the company.
They have not launched the final DLC yet.
No, fuck.
It's ready. Now it just needs the year of polish. So they cut everyone. Like, it's just the polishers.
What sucks so much about Bungie too is Lightfall, or it was coming off of Witch Queen, which was 2022's expansion, was really so good. It was one of the best in Destiny 2,
which they developed during lockdown, like working from home, too, which is crazy.
And then they followed up with Lightfall, and it felt like filler content. Like it was just not great, and that just led to everybody kind of falling off the season after, which was not great. From what I've heard, I basically, after I beat the raid, I basically stopped playing Destiny 2 and haven't gone back since. And yeah, it's like the fact that it got nominated for best community support like a week after these layoffs happened, it's like
I didn't even think about that. That's awful.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, Jordan, you had some other points you wanted to make about why this year was shitty.
Yeah. Let's not forget what else we lost this year. And it's not, of course, people's jobs and livelihoods are much more important. But this year we also lost the 3DS and the Wii U eShop, which, as much as I just made fun of the Wii U, we lost a lot of games. And as much fun as it is for me to always, pick up this thing and go, do you know how easy it is to mod your 3DS? Because it's actually like really easy to mod your 3DS. We shouldn't have to. We shouldn't have to make bits. We shouldn't have to rely on one dude who apparently now isn't even all he said to be to download everything that's on these shops to preserve these games that we'll never see again. One of the honorable mentions I had on my list was Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection, because, like I said in the short, and like I've been saying all last year, was that game I think showed how to do game preservation or a collection right when you get to the start of when I think real lost media can happen, of like they had e-reader and event things that like don't exist anymore, and there's content in those games that are locked behind these events that don't happen anymore that they put in. And every year games are getting harder and harder to find. And that's not even going into like, look at what happened with the strikes this year. And, shows that Disney Plus put so much money into never like just being deleted, or WB deleting stuff off of like their streaming services. That's going to happen in games at some point. I mean, you've had issues.
Oh, wait, it has. Like, speaking of Nintendo, the fucking the Super Mario collection. Like, if you remember that.
I mean, I even an older example I remember is like, I think there was some rights stuff with maybe some like licensed musics or like Disney licensing out like these characters of theirs to these companies to make a DuckTales game or whoever.
Yep.
However, Marvel contracts worked for the Marvel Ultimate Alliance recollection in 2016.
Or even the
Pilgrim.
Deadpool PS3 game. Like that, you just can't buy that digitally
Deadpool,
anymore.
PS3, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, like the remastered collection, DuckTales are just 3 examples from years ago of like games that you can't access anymore, let alone like the virtual console on the 3DS is one of the only ways to get the old Pokemon games, like for the most mainstream example I can think of. Like we're losing a lot of game availability, and now you have companies like Ubisoft saying buying isn't owning, which hot take.
That was what
pirating
came out last week.
Yeah, like honestly, that's how I'm starting to feel. Like then pirating can't be stealing, because if you're not going to make these games, like, I have not had to download a ROM for any Mega Man Battle Network game since April. Why? Because all the games became readily available.
Sure.
Like we need to find a way to preserve these games, because gaming is such a new medium that even really shitty games need to be preserved, because we don't know what's in their source code or what mechanics they used that maybe were ahead of their time, that we didn't see what they're for, that we want to look back on, or developers in the future want to go back and look and find a way to like build off of these stuff. So like that's a big thing I always want to make sure to remind people of.
Yeah, sure. I'm with you. And then AI, right? That's a whole different bag.
Yeah, that's
Listen, they laid off all those people because like AI can probably do what they do anyway.
I have some fucking thoughts on AI use in gaming, man. Let me tell you.
Hey man, all I'm saying is like, you tell me AI can't know the rules of D&D? Yeah, Wizards of the Coast doesn't need those people to help Larian. We'll have Alvin Iverson or whatever the AI stands for do it, man.
What a reference. Jesus.
This is a surprisingly timely conversation too, with all of this stuff kind of like surrounding the release of Power World and things right now, right? But just like right at the tail end of last year too, like SAG-AFTRA was like, yeah, you can use it. It's like, we don't have a problem with AI voiceover in games. Which fucking, like, why? Like, are you kidding me? Like, that was 80% of the reason that these people were protesting to begin with.
Yeah.
Specifically the voice actors.
And the thing that kills me, because we're talking about layoffs and sustainability within these developers' businesses, and unfortunately, again, these slimeball, corporate, greedy, doesn't give a shit about the medium assholes that are the ones that are sticking around, are looking at how advanced AI performances are becoming so quickly, and being like, well, why would we need to hire and pay people huge amounts of money to come and perform in our games when we can just create that for free with AI? And it's going to become more and more common if we don't fucking do anything about it. I was posting about it the other day. It's the reason I don't play a game called The Finals, because the voiceover that happens within the game is all entirely AI generated. There is not a human voicing any of the characters in that game.
And what pisses me off is that example specifically, I think, is a perfect one to use about like, more so than NFTs. There is a legitimacy to AI in the sense that also for people who don't work in the industry, they have been using it, like, but not in the way that we're thinking, not in the mainstream.
Right. Once it starts replacing human performances is when I have a problem with it. You can use it for analytical stuff or other applications. There are lots of great applications for it. And so, but the problem is that I posted about it, like specifically in the finals on Twitter one day, and I got a litany of comments being like, AI is here to stay, why fight it? Because it's going to start eroding at the things that we love about our hobby if we don't say something about it. Imagine if Luke Skywalker was talking to Ben Kenobi and said the Empire is inevitable. Why fight it? Like, then you have no Star Wars, which is unacceptable. But
nerdy ass try to spell out why.
But that's the thing. Like, so many people are like, well, it's a fun game. It's already here. Why does it matter? I was like, because if we sit here and let it just roll over and let it happen, it's going to be everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Well, so that's the thing. Like, I saw a post about this whole Power World situation. I know that's like, it's leaning towards, it's kind of shown, but it's not quite evident if they are or what they're using
there's no hard
AI for.
evidence for Powell's. I
Yes.
want to put that out there.
Yes.
But things are starting to look worse than they were Friday.
It doesn't look great, but there's no hard evidence one way or the other yet.
But one post I saw is like, man, this game maybe 5-10 years ago would be a game that everybody would have written off. But because of the use of AI and all that, it's like it's one of the most played games in Steam's history right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, it's one of those things that it's if we don't stop or like vote with our wallet, essentially, like.
Oh, to pivot back off that was another of my talking points where like people say vote with your wallet. I don't think that does shit anymore because we've seen the examples of when companies get money, they just lay off people anyway. Like it doesn't matter. Yeah. Like I don't know how besides being vocal about it,
well, and
which
also
again only does so much shouting from the rooftops, but it's just like voting with your wallet. To me, I feel disingenuous saying that just because like I don't think that even matters anymore.
And also, like, people aren't, and that's one of the things that drives me nuts. Like it's specifically in the AI thing. Like I'm calling y'all the fuck out right here. Okay, a lot of my friends are people who respect artists and say like we should defend them and do all this stuff. And those fucking same people that are like don't take jobs away from these people and those sort of things are the same people I see getting online to fucking play the finals. I see y'all streaming it on Twitch. I see y'all playing it, and it's like
Discord doesn't lie.
Pick one. Yeah. You can't do both. If you're gonna talk it, then walk it.
Yeah, yes, like I'll out myself a little bit just so that different thing entirely. But like we talked early of last year about Hogwarts Legacy and how like we don't really want to support J.K. Rowling being a piece of shit. I bought Hogwarts Legacy. I played it. I donated to a charity. Now that's not exactly a 1-to-1 where like that makes it okay, but like. Yeah. That's an example where I was hypocritical, and it's like one of those things where like maybe I shouldn't have fucking done that, you know? Like maybe I should have not done that. But
yeah, well, the Hogwarts Legacy thing has made me pay more attention to that
like creators,
just that whole thing in general. But I mean, at the same time, the vote with your wallet stuff, like Hogwarts Legacy was one of the highest selling games of last year. And that's crazy. Like amongst a year where you have things like Baldur's Gate,
outsold Call of Duty.
Call of Duty. Yeah. Like Call of Duty was ass.
Hogwarts Legacy,
so I guess to walk it back
was a level of mainstream appeal with that franchise that like is, and when you can, I'm also talking on like a global sense. I'm not saying that this is a good thing, but a lot of the conversations that happen around that game and J.K. Rowling's opinions was very much a chronically online conversation. And I'm not saying that it's not a legitimate conversation to be had, but like
well, I mean, casuals aren't having those conversations about
they are, and like also it's like not just casuals in gaming. People who are casuals to Harry Potter do not know what J.K. Rowling is saying. My sisters constantly every year for Christmas like try to get me like a small Harry Potter stocking because they know it's a franchise I like, and it's a very nice gesture, and like I don't like to like put them down for it, but like that I think Hogwarts Legacy was going to be in the top selling games of this year regardless.
Yeah, so just to walk it back, and for the record, Alec, I wasn't calling you out when I said that. I just think that statement is for me personally. But like maybe the whole voting with your wallet thing isn't necessarily buying the correct games, but it's not buying the other games. But it's just one of those things where I feel like either one of them, I don't feel like it does enough damage.
Sticking or like going along with Chris, sticking with your convictions. Like if you like, there's that whole thing with the people like doing the whole like AI art portraits, and it's like people are getting called out for that because like they look good, but those are stealing people's art. Like if you were high and mighty on a high table talking about that, it's like, and you're still playing the finals and stuff like that, it's like
it's the same thing. Like it's the same thing, and like so many of these AI creators have come out and said it's like like our program can't function without essentially stealing the works of others, and which is also that's a failure of a product, by the way. That means it doesn't functionally work, but regardless,
that means they invented a different type of technology.
Yeah,
that people like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a whole different conversation. But I mean, it is that thing of like, if I see you tweeting about like protecting the interests of artists and voiceover performers and all of these things, and then I see y'all playing fucking the finals, I'm gonna say something it's like put your fucking money where your mouth is.
Mm-hmm. But like going back to like where I see like it could be used in like useful ways, and again I agree you bring that up because for the people who are in those businesses, they're like, it is being used as a tool. It's just people are looking at it as a replacement or wrong. Is like, we could probably save a lot of. I mean, all of DLSS runs on AI.
Yeah,
like generative frames
there's,
and I'm not saying
great
that porting is ever
for
just a port button or give it a 60 FPS button, but like, hey, if FromSoft came out and said, with the help of Ira developers and a NVIDIA AI tool, we have a 60 FPS Bloodborne now.
Yep.
That is much different than fuck voice actors. Here is Microsoft Sam's the
moment it
voice
starts
announcing
replacing like human performance is where I have a problem with it.
With the finals,
if it's strictly a tool, cool.
Yeah.
If it makes the people who are still employed, who should stay employed, like if it makes their jobs easier and more effective, so they can actually have more passion for said project, then yeah.
Sorry, it's like I've used AI tools like in Premiere and stuff for stuff on shared screens. Like there are great.
I would love an AI editor. I would love an AI editor. If you've worked retail, I drop in every time and what rough order I put them in. Like, get me halfway there.
If you've worked retail like I currently do, like a lot of those jobs, like it's less and less people because they've developed AI tools to make things easier. Mm-hmm. So what they do is they pay more people or less people more money because they no longer need a shit ton of people. So that's why you see like they're so like they 20 years ago they would say, I don't know, just throwing a number, there'd be like 150 people at a store running it. Now that same store, because of those tools that exist, there's now like 35 people because they no longer need to have the 150 people because that's done easier with the AI tool. So using it as a tool, and again, that's a weird thing where it's like, yeah, a bunch of people got laid off then, but it's going to happen, but we have to call out when it's being hypocritical and when it's literally taking away jobs in this format.
Yeah, like with the finals, I view as like I feel like they could have gotten a voice actor to do 200 unique reactions that maybe have such limited uses, but with the help of AI, those 200 reactions are actually being heard constantly because it's not programmed for one exact set situation. The AI kind of knows when to use this saying, but like again, the performance is a real human.
It's still a little iffy for me, but as long as you're paying someone, like I'll whatever, I guess.
That's a downer for sure.
2023, it's even more of a downer that people need to realize because 2023 is probably, in terms of game releases, the best year for video games, if not the best, one of the top 3 of all time.
It's probably the best year to be a gamer ever, and simultaneously one of the worst times of the year to work in the gaming industry.
Yep. I totally agree. Now, just to pivot as a complete 180 and go back to some titles we want to talk about. There's one I think a few of us at least have seen like the memes about, and I think this is a good thing to kick off like the back half of this, where it's like Lethal Company.
I'm so glad you mentioned Lethal Company. I have that on my list here. That is one of the most unique and funny multiplayer experiences I've ever had. And it's made by one person, which is out.
I did not know that.
It's made by one person. And this one person made the absolute best implementation of like spatial audio I've ever heard in a video game.
Yeah, it's so cool.
The communication in that is unbelievably funny.
It's weird because
proximity chat, I think you mean.
Yeah.
Sorry, I always go to spatial audio for some fucking reason. Proximity, the best use of proximity chat I've ever heard.
Have you guys seen the glitch in, I think it was Fortnite, where does Fortnite have proximity chat?
No, not that I know of.
It does not.
Maybe it was Warzone then, because Warzone has proximity.
Warzone does.
Yep.
Okay, anyway. I think there was a glitch where like if you like whatever songs people were like of their own songs people were listening to in a car was going into the proximity chat. So some dude drove by and you just hear like Freebird get really loud and then get softer and the dude just zooms back.
Oh yeah, because you get that really really great Doppler effect, right? Of getting quieter as they're running by. So there's so many, like if you're running from a monster, you'll hear them like get loud, like as they're screaming, they get louder as they pass you, they're quieter. Like that's always hilarious.
It was that way the dude zooming by.
But when I talk about like the best use of proximity as well, it's like. It's obviously really important for a game where like it requires a lot of communication. There's monsters and it's funny. You're like if you're just not in a Discord
and
chat,
it's
where
goofy.
You can always hear each other.
It makes for hilarious moments because of said proximity chat.
But it's also I remember just being so impressed too on how like the way that the environment changes the way that the voices sound. So like if you're in a place that's that's like primarily metal, like if you're inside or whatever, it reverberates a ton and sounds like metal. But if you're outside, like there's none of that reverb because you're outside, or you're in a canyon and it echoes like down the canyon. Like it's such a really good job that I to the point where it's like I've never heard another game do that, and one person did it. You know, wild.
Just to like, because you can, if you want to, it would not make the game as well, but you can just get a bunch of people, get all on Discord and not use walkies, and the game will not feel the same. Like
it's not as fun.
The proximity chat is like a must for that title, for that game.
Yeah.
I had another point and it's gone. I pulled an Alec. Shit.
Well, it's gone, guys. It's also simple, and I think harkens back to the idea of like it doesn't have to be this huge gigantic AAA game to be a fucking banger. Like Lethal Company has blown up.
100%. Rightfully so. I mean, you see a bunch of memes and all that about it. But there's also I don't know. There's probably other games that do this, but the game will literally like record the audio of your companions, and like because there's like a creature that like says those lines, and you're like, oh, that's my friend calling for me or whatever. He's over here, and then it's like it's a creature like trying to fuck with you.
That's a mod.
It's like literally.
Oh,
is that a mod? Okay, cool. Regardless, that's fucking cool. Yeah. I don't care if that's a mod. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's called the Skinwalker mod. It's excellent. It's fucking awesome. There is like in the game itself though there is an enemy that like looks like a player character with a mask on, but is a monster that's trying to kill you. And so like for a lot of people, like the first time you see it, you're looking at your friend. Oh, because it takes over the actual, like when it kills a player, it actually puts a mask on that person, and then you lose control of your character in the game, as it tries to kill everyone else. It's very 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 good. But yeah, unfortunately, like the Skinwalker thing is a mod, a very good mod that I highly recommend playing with.
So I would be remiss, and we don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but Baldur's Gate 3 was the game of the year. Like the Game of the Awards, and Baldur's Gate 3 is like a triumph in games. We already got about it, like how even they got laid off. So like this year fucking sucks. Yeah. But as someone who played like 5 hours of Baldur's Gate, the game was fantastic. I just know that I don't have the time. Yeah. I can't.
I want to get back into it. I played maybe about 15 to 20-ish hours. Loved all of it because I've been getting in. Last year was the first time I got into D&D, so got to test out some things for my character and new rollers, and really
that's
enjoyed.
A unique way to. I like that.
It will
never use that as like a tool.
It will never not impress me that again that dense, that long, that complicated, and not that accessible is as successful as it was. Like it is unabashedly an old school CRPG in so many ways.
It's because it's that good that people are like they force themselves to get over that hump because they know that there's something in this experience worth experiencing. So they're like, okay, I'll deal with the movement I'm not used to and all this stuff because of
people and how mainstream D&D's become the last few years.
That too,
and fucking a bear. Too.
Yeah, also that
fucking a bear.
It was also a banger.
Like, did you have?
I'm sorry.
Sorry. I was just going to say, people, those lofty expectations of this is what RPGs need to be from going on. No, it's like,
no.
There's
not going to be another Baldur's Gate 3.
Expectation out of your mind because that is not going to happen.
It was such a unique case with early access and working on it for so many years.
Yep.
Especially because like Larian's like previous series too, the Divinity games were basically made
also really good,
which are excellent. I have Divinity 2. It's awesome. But they made those essentially so they could go to Wizards of the Coast and be like, look, we can make a Dungeons and Dragons game. Let us do the next Baldur's Gate game. Like that was why they made Divinity. Like Larian fucking loves this series.
They did the thing and they excelled at it. Again, passion projects. Like there's a reason those do well. All right, so pay the right people to make the right projects.
There were a couple honorable mentions that I wanted to run through. I can like speed run through them if you guys are cool with that.
Absolutely.
There were 2 remakes of like survival horror games that were both like every bit as good as their original counterparts. Both games of which are considered like amongst like the greatest games of all time, which is Dead Space and Resident Evil 4. I actually just finished I replayed Resident Evil 4 just this last weekend while I was sick, and it's fucking incredible.
That's on my list to get to this year because I've never played Resident Evil 4 because I don't like horror games, but after seeing people say if I can, but that's what I'm saying though is that after people saying, "Oh, you got through Alan Wake 2," So you can get through this.
Oh yeah, easy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, like
so
definitely
looking forward to that.
As someone who like never played the original 4 and played it for review, and also played Alan Wake 2, 1, yes, that's a completely true statement. 2, Resident Evil 4 is legitimately a 10 out of 10. Like as someone who didn't play the original, that game fucking is awesome.
It's amazing.
Leon is fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's
really
good. It's genuinely incredible, and I thought it was. I think it's so funny that both of those games came out last year, and they both kind of excel in the same ways. In that it understands the legacy of these two games and manages to still make what I in my opinion at least is an even better experience of two of the greatest games ever made. You know, to the point where people were like, "Ooh, should I play the original and then the remake?" I'm like, no, just play the new ones. The new ones are better. Yeah, which is wild to think about. Yeah, because both of those games were absurd. Similarly to like big remakes though, like we saw a lot of like big DLCs, like Phantom Liberty was big, but I think the largest one, or at least like the most impactful one for me personally, was a free DLC, which is God of War Valhalla.
Insane that was free.
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion just on like the value of Valhalla, more like value Halla, just off of what it was.
Did Sony Santa Monica have layoffs? Sorry, I didn't want to bring it back.
I don't think they did actually.
They did.
I was gonna say maybe if they didn't make it free, they wouldn't have layoffs.
I don't think they did.
Well, good for them.
It's this really cool like combination of like, here's this replayable like roguelike thing that you can do just to get a little more value out of it, and then it's also like an epilogue to Kratos' like character arc after like following Ragnarok, and there's a ton of references to the original trilogy God of War games, or not even original trilogy, just the entire Greek saga of games, because they reference like the fucking PSP games in Valhalla.
I've heard.
And like as a huge, I played every single game in the God of War series. So like
Valhalla, so weird. The only one I've played is Chains of Olympus. Isn't that fucking weird?
That is really weird.
That's the only one.
The only one you need, I hear.
No, there's no way that's true. The game's fine. It's fine.
Incorrect. In fact, I got a PS2
Olympus
emulator.
Was okay.
I got a PS2 emulator running on my Steam Deck, and I'm playing through the first God of War again. I haven't played it since I was a teenager. And one, surprising how well that game holds up. Just in terms of gameplay and stuff, and two, like it really hits differently having seen Kratos at the end of his journey, basically now with Valhalla, and going back and also like, I don't think a lot of people actually realize like how many attacks they lifted from the original God of War games into the new ones with the Blades of Chaos. I was sitting there, I was like, you can do that in Ragnarok, you can do that in Valhalla, like there's a lot of that, but. Yeah, Valhalla I actually have as number 4 on my top 5 list of games like this year, because it
which
was
is the one
so
he
emotionally impactful. That was the one I adjusted after it came out.
It was like the third list that Chris sent me.
It was the second. I mistyped.
To make it not true. To make the fact not true, all right?
I sent him one, and then I went, oh shit, wait, hold on. Like to get something that is free and like so like emotionally and impactful, and then just so gameplay wise so solid. I mean, I think it's a perfect package.
As someone who only played like a few minutes of it just to literally get in there and see what it was, I think it's so smart to tie it as like an epilogue. I think that's really brilliant to be like, this isn't just like a different timeline or whatever. I mean, maybe it is, I don't know, but it's one of those things where it's like, there's value in this for the people who really like the story of God of War and Kratos' journey. Like, it's not just.
In fact, I would even argue that that's mostly what it is too. Like when they do like the Hades thing, I think of like really integrating like the reason that you're replaying this over and over again super well into the lore of what it is. But
love when they build that into roguelikes.
I think for somebody that wants like a super pure like roguelike experience, I don't know that Valhalla is going to be like incredible to you. Like I think the story of it is its strongest point, because like if after you get like 4 full playthroughs of it, that's kind of it in terms of the story, and then you have like this roguelike. It's fun because the combat in God of War is fun. But it doesn't change much after you finish it.
There are still more moments, because like
there are still things, but it's nothing huge.
There's Yeah, but the thing that got to me, like, that so many people realized is because they didn't really mess with if you can do like those few combos in Ragnarok and you can be fine throughout the entire game if you're playing on the easier difficulties.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing with Valhalla is you basically have to kind of master certain skills and aspects of each weapon to progress and do well.
I used the spear in Valhalla way more than I ever did in Ragnarok.
Oh,
A
same.
lot of people are saying that. Like
Yeah.
the spear was cool. It made sense story wise, but like I just kind of really liked the other weapons. It's like,
I
yeah, that
know
makes
that
sense.
like the DLC is fun, obviously, but like
Mhm.
as somebody who's never played the original games, somebody keeps pushing me to like, yo, you should finally play Valhalla because like it's so good. And I'm like, to me, it's like cool. Like I'm not doubting that it's good, but like I don't feel like because I haven't played them, I'm gonna
So
get
That's kind of where I'm
anything
at
out
too.
of it.
I actually did not play. I've not played the original games. And I played Valhalla. Absolutely loved it. You can still get a ton out of it, even if you didn't ever play.
Yeah. No,
don't
it's
have that attachment.
genuinely if you're at all interested in Kratos as a person, even if you don't understand like why
The connections and all that.
like why they talk about like Helios or his daughter. Like it's like even if you don't necessarily get those references,
Calliope! Sorry.
even if you don't get those references, the monologue that Kratos has at the end of the story of it is
Yes.
so worth like spending the 4 hours it takes to
Christopher
get through
Judge, man.
Valhalla's plot. It's
Dude.
fucking unbelievable.
I'm honestly like that whole final scene. It is worth playing it because
Is it a 12-minute long monologue?
just about honestly.
Going for the record.
And then the next game, there's going to be no dialogue in it at all.
No, please, no, no.
It's just gonna be
don't.
the same track from the soundtrack played over every time a character speaks for over 10
Wrap it
seconds.
up.
But I'll say God of War or Valhalla for me, that was number 9 on my top 10. Mostly just because DLC, but I absolutely adored this. Like I think I beat it over a couple sittings, and yeah, if you're playing on the default difficulty, be prepared for a challenge because
Oh, it'll beat your ass.
I've never played
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Like I'm putting that shit on easy, man.
Oh no, like for me, like I think I texted Chris, like I broke out my inner Kratos for that final boss fight. Like I did a few more extra
The
challenges.
last one is hard.
Oh yeah.
You just look at the wall near to like where Alex PS5 is set up, and it's like he used L3 R3 on that man, just fucking punching holes in it.
But, yeah.
So
Good game.
Another like huge franchise release this year was Super Mario, right? We got Wonder.
Yeah.
I don't love this game. I want that on the record. I do.
Interesting.
I did love having a new 2D Mario, right? I'm not
Mhm.
going to say like that
Yep.
that wasn't a great release and like a good timing, and we were due for one. I think those are
Like,
all
it is a
true
good
statements.
game.
And it's a
Yeah.
good video. Like I said, it's similar to like the Nintendo thing, where it's like Nintendo is kind of unique, where they have a really high ceiling, but they also have a really high floor.
Yeah.
Where it's like even if it's a bad per se Nintendo game, it's probably at worst a 7. And I do
Mhm.
think Mario Wonder is better than a 7 for the record.
Oh yeah.
The main qualm I have with Mario Wonder is like how the camera operates and like who has the crown or whatever. Because it's not like the other games where you can like go into like a little bubble and then get popped out. Like there's a time limit to that. So if you miss that, you're just dead. You're just gone. Second, it moves with the person on the crown, and it's so closed in on like how the camera operates that if that person doesn't know what they're doing, you're just screwed. Like you just cannot
Gotcha.
progress.
Like that's
it's
it.
literally like let me waste 2 more lives to get everyone else back, right? Just so I can have the person who has the crown like literally lead us. And it's not
Okay.
that like the game itself is difficult, but sometimes like the way Wonder works is like it's kind of a mystery. Like the whole course is kind of like learning these new mechanics and like kind of finding the hidden objects. And if you're just going to the end, like that's not how Mario is played. So you might make it to the end. Honestly, that's not guaranteed, but you might make it to the end, but you're missing all of the other stuff. So it's like, well, now we got to do that again and do the same thing, have the same problems. It's just
because didn't they remove the time limits like to beat the level so that way it's more explorable? Like this time around?
I don't remember there being a time limit, so that might be true. But
Yeah,
I don't think the camera complements the whole change to how, like,
explorability of it.
Yes, I just think if honestly, if they just zoomed out like a little bit, it'd be so much better. But what do I know? I've also been on record saying I hate when your character is really small, so who knows?
I mean, that's fair.
So,
that's
This
valid.
man sees Mario without a mushroom and is like, I fucking hate this franchise.
I did like the elephant little power up, and you water and you can like spray it on shit and make flowers grow and stuff. I was like, yeah, that feels very Mario. It feels right at home with every other power up. So yeah. Quality game, just that's like the major thing where it's like, well, I think that aspect of it was a miss for what they wanted Wonder to be.
Yeah.
Even with all that. Any more thoughts on Mario Wonder? Because I was just pretty negative about it.
I
haven't played it.
I played the first couple levels, so I didn't get too far in it.
Like as someone who just usually kind of blows through most of Mario, like I go through it for the collectibles and stuff, but I don't like find all that very, very hard to find hidden levels and that kind of stuff.
Right.
I think just like my initial run, I probably did like 90% of the game. So like,
wow.
I do think it's good in that aspect where like it's not going to make you like literally hunt these things down for forever to find them. So it's at least paced that way in terms of the hidden stuff pretty well. So another one that I know Alec want to talk about is Sea of Stars.
Yes,
right? And I think we're going to end on this game. So just say your piece on this.
But
oh, okay, no, I'm wrong. But Sea of Stars fucking rocks.
Cool game.
Yeah, so for me, like it was one of those games. Like as a kid, I loved the Game Boy Advance game, the Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, and this just scratches that itch so well. But honestly, even better because it's like the perfect evolution of that game because the art style, it's one of those games that you see the trailer for it and it just immediately catches your eye. Like it is the perfect evolution of that kind of Chrono Trigger art style, 16-bit art style. And then the soundtrack is awesome.
Oh, really good.
One of my favorites of last year. And just on top of all of that, they just have a banger story too. Like just Garl. Like who doesn't love Garl?
Everyone, because I haven't beaten the game yet. All right,
I haven't either.
It's one
That's
of those
why
things
it's only
where
number 10 on my list.
I just ask them, they just go, Garl, bro. I'm like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Stop saying this dude's name. I don't know.
Oh, you guys haven't finished it?
No.
Oh shit!
I've gotten to a.
I was going to talk about something that happens near the end, but I will not now. Okay.
Well, I've gotten to a pivotal moment that I know the big thing with him, but
yeah. I understand things are like heavily implied and like how things are going, but like they even say, no, you think that, but they're like leading you down a path, and then it's also another turn. You're like, ah. So I want to. God damn it, Jordan. So I do want to finish that game. I've been playing that game primarily with my backbone, using what's it called? Is Chris dead?
I think I broke
xCloud.
Yes, using xCloud, and like the backbone doesn't fit perfectly on my phone, so it's a whole thing because I have a Pixel. But like playing that game like handheld is honestly like a dream. Like if you want to, it's on Game Pass, but if you buy it on Switch, makes total sense.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's it was a perfect game for me to play during COVID because I'll be ready for a lot of reading because there's no voice acting. It's you got to read it all. So.
Yeah, and I don't know how long Chrono Trigger was, but like one, that's a classic title, but two, Sea of Stars isn't that long, right? In terms of like how these style of games usually are longer.
Chrono Trigger is actually like only like a little longer than Sea of Stars is.
Fair enough, but it's a shorter version of like what we currently get of this style of game. Yeah. So that I like about it.
Yeah, big time Chrono Trigger vibes.
How long to beat has Sea of Stars at 28 hours main story, 34 and a half main and extra, 42 completionist.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. Like around 30 hours for like an RPG like that. That makes total sense to me. And like that's exactly what I want.
I guess you don't get like JRPG style games that are only like 30 hours like that. Like it's really nice.
No, not at all.
Yeah. 120 like minimum.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're somehow so fucking many
Persona.
It's so true. It's because they sell, because there are weebs out there who are like in high school who have nothing else better to do. That was me, okay? So that was just me back.
I was about to say, I used to play a shit ton of Final Fantasy. I really don't anymore, you know, because I don't have the time to. I don't get the time to do that, man.
Fair enough. But Sea of Stars, quality title. Alec, you had one more.
Yeah. So my last game, the honorable mention on my top 10, was a game that I found towards the end of the year. RoboQuest. It's a roguelike FPS game, and I actually played it a bit earlier in the year because it was on Game Pass as one of their like game preview games, like early access kind of games.
Sure.
And it was one of those like I could see the potential in the game, but it was one of those that was still kind of like Chris, how you and I played Baldur's Gate at the beginning, and it's like you could see the potential, but it's like it's just not there yet. That's what RoboQuest was for me. Like I could see it had something there, but it wasn't quite there yet. And then a friend of the show, Billy the Door, he had been playing quite a bit of it and got me, because I hadn't realized that the 1.0 had launched. So last couple weeks of December, I was just playing the absolute hell out of that game. I think I've got about 20 to 30 hours in this game. And it is just an absolute blast. The different classes are so much fun. It's fast-paced combat. Like, you're always moving. You're always incentivized to keep going, run around the arenas.
It looks fun.
It is such a fun game, and it's on Game Pass as well. So I recommend. So if you like FPS games and roguelites, I think it's more of a roguelite than a roguelike because you don't start completely from scratch at the beginning. But absolutely recommend this game.
Like almost like a diva from Overwatch roguelite. That's just what it reminded me of. It's not a 1-to-1. Don't get me wrong. It's just that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, because you're not inside the mech. It's not a mech. It's actually it's just different robots that you're doing.
Fair enough.
But yeah, there's different powers. Absolutely, and much like every roguelite, you have different elemental buffs you can get. Different weapons that widely vary from anything from a pistol to a crazy rocket launcher. Yeah. I
always like the idea of I guess this will be that run. I guess I'm going for this now.
Yep. And there's so many hidden things too. Like there's so many things Billy was telling me about. I'm like, wait, what's that? Or what's this? How do you get this? Yeah. And it's such a fun game. Highly recommend people check that out.
Yeah, in a year like 2023, like you've already said 1,000 times, like RoboQuest went overlooked, rightfully so, but still a very quality video game worth your time, sounds like. So
yep.
That's been our thoughts on 2023. Gaming in 2023.
Also, shout out Halo Infinite for the insane improvement that it had last year too. I feel I left it off my list, and I'm sorry, I meant to bring it up earlier, but
how dare you?
But I mean, yeah, the insane shift and like amount of goodwill going on in Halo right now, I feel like is really cool. So that's it.
My shout out goes to Jordan's comments in this podcast on the little
Garl, these nuts in your mouth.
With that, I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you for watching Media Club. We have talked 2023 in gaming, which was amazing and awful at the same time. So thank you for watching. Goodbye.